guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Kirsten and it's time for my very first unhaul. So this video was meant to be my January haul, however, as much as I've got book vouchers for Christmas, none of the shops have been open in the UK at the moment for me to go shopping, and I know I could do it all online, but I really want to actually go in the shop and enjoy choosing my books. So instead we're getting an unhaul. These are books that I have pulled off my shelves when I rearranged them, just because either I'm never going to reread them again, or I'm never going to read them, or I really didn't enjoy them. So let's get straight to it. So the first book I am going to be unhauling is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Ngan. This is meant to be a really empowering story about women coming together and facing something awful, because our main character has been taken against her will to be a paper girl. Now, a paper girl is someone that is basically the king's concubine. It's against her will, her family are being threatened, and she's had no choice in this. And honestly, I expected this to be a difficult read, but I kind of thought that we would have female friendship, a coming together of them dealing with their situation, maybe overthrowing the emperor, which would be great, but I personally didn't find that at all. Now, I know loads of people really do enjoy this book, but for me, I just found our main character to be very self-centered, very whiny, and she was constantly like, I'm better than everybody else, I've been forced to do this, I don't want to do this. And it's just like, well, you're not the only one. You're not the only one that's being forced to do this. You're not the only one that doesn't want to do it. And to be fair, she gets away with not having to do it for a very long time in this book, while the other girls have to. And they're not always treated nicely at all. And yet she still thinks that she's better than them. And I'm just like, why? Why do you keep thinking that? And then when the girl that she supposedly falls in love with comes back from dealing with the king one evening, she is in a terrible way, and all our main character is thinking, oh, you have to take me away from here. And it's just like, girl, shouldn't you be comforting the one that you supposedly love? She is the one that's all beat up, and yet you're the one that's complaining. So I really didn't like this main character at all. It really ruined it for me, and I'm not going to be carrying on with this series. Then I have a few Terry Pratchett books, and that is The Colour of Magic, The Light Fantastic, and Mort, which is the first, second and fourth book in the Discworld series. Don't ask me why it's the first, second and fourth rather than the third, but there we go. And the only reason why I'm getting rid of these is, honestly, I've had these on my shelves for absolutely years and I've never picked them up. I have read a few of Terry Pratchett's books. I actually used Nation in my English literature exam. I actually did this for one of my essays, and I really enjoyed this book. But his other books, I don't know, they're a bit hit and miss. Sometimes I really love them, sometimes I really don't. And I was going to read all of his Discworld books, but as I said, that was years ago and I still haven't even read these three, so I think it's time that these go to a better home and someone that's actually going to read them. Then we have another book I'm unhauling just because I didn't enjoy it, and that's Hold Back the Tide by Melinda Salisbury. This was a really slow start, which I think doesn't help. So this is supposed to be a YA horror, and we're following our main character who believes her father has killed her mother. I believe it for all of 2 pages, honestly, because then when you're actually meeting this person, he doesn't feel like someone that's actually would have done this. And considering that our main character believes it so wholeheartedly, I just couldn't understand why. It was so weird, and she is living by this lock. It's all very unusual. There's a lot of weirdness going on around it, and I can agree that there is a decent atmosphere to this book. However, it's so slow paced, it's unreal, and then I'm not connected to any of the characters. So by the time the horror elements start, which is very late in this very short book, I then didn't really care about what happened. It wasn't scary to me, and it was a bit predictable, the ending. So that was a shame. I had high hopes, but when I have a horror book, I really want to be scared, and I'm a wimp and I get scared easily, but this one I was just like, oh, is that it? So it just missed the mark for me. And I know, again, some people have enjoyed this, but it's one of those books that seem to split the crowd. You either like it or you really don't. The next book is a book that I did my very first and only rant review on booktube, and that's Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, and I really don't like this. I again had this book on my shelves for a very long time, so I thought, you know what, sod it, let me try it, and I literally just complained the whole way through. I ended up DNFing it. I just could not get on with it. It was just so frustrating to me. I just found the writing style in particular to be one that I don't like, so I won't really be reading anything else he writes because I just couldn't get on with it. First of all, it's so overly descriptive, it's unreal, and don't get me wrong, descriptions are useful and I do like them when they're done well, but what I don't want is a 6-line sentence that is just items, that literally goes, there was a radio, there was a TV, there was this, there was that, and it's literally just that for a whole paragraph. And I'm just like, why is that needed? Why do I need to know about every single item of junk that is in this room? Like, I just don't need that. So I was like, no, I don't like that at all. I also didn't like the fact that it felt like a thesaurus was being thrown at me half the time, because every time they said a sentence in a certain way, that emotion would have to be repeated 3 times, but in 3 different ways. And it's just like, okay, you can use a thesaurus. Congratulations. Is it necessary? And I would have thought it would be passable if it was just with one character and it could have been a character trait, but it wasn't. It was with all of them, and I'm just like, this is so unnecessary. And then we have the actual characters themselves. We have 2 of them that are trying to be funny, but you know they're not fun. Like, if they have to say we're so funny, then you're not funny. And then the other one is just a doormat, and I'm just like, really? It was just subpar to me. I couldn't get on with the writing style, couldn't get on with the characters, and the biggest things for me is writing style and character development, and I just felt there was none. So yeah, this was a DNF at 50%, and I will not be picking up any more Neil Gaiman. Then we have Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. The only reason why I'm unhauling this is because I've already got a copy, and this is hardback, and none of my other copies are hardbacks. I do like collecting different editions of the Harry Potter books, don't get me wrong. However, I really don't like having just one random hardback. So yeah, I'm just gonna unhaul this one. Then we have another book which I have not read and I'm probably never going to, and that's The Passage by Justin Cronin. And I know that Christina from Christina Campbell Books has read this book and she really liked it, but for me, I'm not feeling it. I'm not a massive horror person. This is to do with vampires. I think it's on more YA, although when I bought this book it was in the adult section, so I don't know where this actually fits. And I don't even know what it's about, but I just know that I'm never going to pick it up. And it's such a big book, and I know that when I do pick it up, I could really enjoy it, but I'm probably just going to lose interest in it. So yeah, this is one that's just been on my shelves for a while. It's not anything that I'm particularly interested in, so I'd rather use the space for a book that I am going to read and that I do enjoy. Then we have a book that I picked up from a charity shop and I'm sending back to a charity shop, and that's You by Carolyn Kepnes. Don't get me wrong, this was a fun, entertaining read. I actually listened to it via audiobook and it was an interesting one, I'll give it that, because I was expecting this to be more of a thriller, and I can say it's not. For me, this was actually just very funny and humorous, and I know it's not going to be something I pick back up. I did watch the TV show before reading this book, and I have to say the TV show was better, which is not something I've ever said about a book, but yeah, this just didn't hit the mark for me. We are following our main character Joe. He is a stalker and you are seeing everything from his perspective, so it is really creepy in places, but some of the stuff he thinks I had to laugh at, because I'm like, you're being so extra, and it's just like, come on man, we know, like, just no, like I just couldn't do it. It was an entertaining one to listen to, and I have found that with audiobooks I can listen to books that I wouldn't necessarily reread or physically buy and find it entertaining, because I'm busy doing other things. It just gives me something to listen to. But yeah, I know this is not one that I'm ever going to physically read or pick back up, so considering it only cost me £2, I don't mind, and I'm happy for it to go back to the charity shop and see if it can give someone else a laugh. And then we have The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and this was a 2-star read for me. I know so many people have enjoyed this book, but for me, I really didn't like it. I couldn't get behind the characters on it. I just found our main character, Rin, to be interesting at first, but there's so much emphasis on self-harm and doing self-harm to get yourself better grades, to get into a better school, and I just couldn't get behind it. And I know a lot of people have then spoken to me and said, yeah, but it's not the author that agrees with it, it's just how the main character sees it, and I understand that, but for me it was just just wasn't worth it. There was one section of this book which I really did enjoy, and that's between Rin and one of the masters at the school. She's going to a school for war, and I really enjoyed that. He's more of an eccentric master, and he starts teaching her the history to some of their shamans and stuff, and I loved that. I found that really interesting. But then it goes straight back into the war and everything, and then we have characters dying that, again, I think I would have been more impacted by if I'd cared about the characters, but Rin is such a loner that you don't get any of those connections. So I don't know, I just couldn't get connected to this, and I know I'm not going to continue on with this, so I would rather give this to someone that is going to enjoy it than keep hold of it, have it sitting on my shelves and just collecting dust. This was one that my sister recommended as well, and I normally like her recommendations, but yeah, it just wasn't for me, unfortunately. Then we have The Strain by Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan. I'm sorry if I probably butchered those names. And this is another book that I haven't read, I know I'm not going to read, and I would just rather it goes to someone that is actually going to pick this book up, because I'm not going to. Again, this is more of a vampire horror story, and yeah, it just doesn't really interest me. I think there was a TV show, I might have watched 1 or 2 episodes of this ages ago. I wasn't interested in it as a TV show. I'm not interested in it as a book, and it's just, yeah. I just don't have anything to say about it. I haven't read it, it doesn't interest me. Again, I don't want it collecting dust. Then we have a book that I got in a subscription box, which honestly I have not read, and I cancelled the subscription because it just wasn't really for me. I liked the idea behind it, and that was Hand Me Down Book Club, and the idea is that you pay £10 a month, you get 2 books out of it, and they're secondhand books, pre-loved, so they can stop going to landfills. But the books that I was getting, because they're secondhand, they're more older books, and if I'm gonna pay for secondhand books, I'd rather go to a charity shop and pay £2 rather than £5 each for these. And one of those was The Crystal Singer by Anne McCaffrey. I don't really know what this is about, but I just know I'm never gonna pick it up. And as much as I was going to have it on my shelves as something I would read eventually, I really was in a decluttering mood, and I don't want to be holding on to books that I know I'm never going to read. And although this looks really cool, it's got a nice 80s vibe to it, I'm never going to pick it up. So I may as well see if anybody else likes it instead. The same goes for James Patterson's Cat and Mouse. I've actually read a few James Patterson books. I've enjoyed some of his works. It's just, he's not an author that I absolutely love. He's an author that I would borrow out of a library, pick up and read, and then that's about it. It's never someone that I've held on to any of his works. And this one, I believe, is actually part of an overarching series, and so just having just this one book when I don't have the other books, I know I'm never going to get the other books, so there's no point in holding on to this one. And again, I got it from that same subscription box. Then we have Malice by John Gwynne. Now, I'm not getting rid of this book because I didn't enjoy it. I loved this. This was brilliant. This was a recommendation by my sister. It was a 5-star book. I absolutely loved it, but it was cheaper for me to buy a full box set of the books instead of buying them all individually when I tried this and found I really enjoyed it. So I bought the box set, and that meant I ended up with 2 copies of Malice, so I'm giving 1 to a charity shop. And like I said, absolutely loved this. This is a book about men and giants and beasts, and we basically have 2 gods, one for good, one for evil, and this fight on Earth because of it. And it's an adult epic fantasy series. There is so much going on. You do have multiple character perspectives. We have a representative for each god that is rising up, and this big war is coming about because of it. And yet the one who believes that he's the representative for the good god, you don't quite believe he's actually good from the way he's acting and what he's doing. So I'm imagining there's going to be some sort of a twist regarding that, because I just can't see him as somebody that is good. And there is so many political things in this, and I really enjoyed it. It's going to be high stakes. Definitely one to sink your teeth into if you like adult fantasy, and yeah, cannot wait to carry on with this series. But as I said, I don't need 2 copies of the first book, especially when they're both paperbacks. So this one can go to a charity shop and hopefully it will inspire someone else to carry on with this series because it's really good. Okay, so the last few books I have are actually different series that I'm unhauling, and one of them is the Meredith Gentry series by Laurel K. Hamilton, and this is a series I've had for absolutely years, and I have read this series. I haven't even finished it. Honestly, there's so many more books in this series and I can't even tell you what order they come in. I just know that this one is first and it's okay, it's interesting. It's all about fae. You have dark fae and then you also have light fae. You've got the two courts, Seelie and Unseelie, and I did find it interesting. There is a lot of political stuff in this. There's loads of smut, so if you're looking for that sort of a read, these are good for it, but I just found it a bit boring after a while. It's an urban fantasy setting and we're following our main character, Mary Gentry, who has been on the run from the Unseelie court for a very long time. She's half human and then she gets caught back up in that world and has to try and deal with her aunt, who is very, very evil, really. She's a very evil woman. But there's just, it goes on for a while. It goes on for a long time, and honestly there are places in it where I just lost track of the story because it was going on for such a long time, and it really is mainly a smut story with Unseelie and Seelie court thrown in, so you've got the fae vibes in it. But yeah, that's about it. And honestly, it's been such a long time that I've even picked these books up. I don't even know fully what it's about anymore, so yeah, I'm just gonna get rid of them. I'm never gonna pick them back up again. It's just not my kind of thing. I think I've just, yeah, outgrown these, not really interested in it, so they can go to a charity shop. Then we have a trilogy by Jacqueline Kerry. Now, I actually really like her Cushel's Dart trilogy. That's a really good trilogy, and so once I had finished reading that, I wanted to pick up some more of her works, and this one is the Nama's Kiss trilogy. Again, I don't know which order these ones come in. It's been a long time since I've read these, and this is kind of like a prequel to Cushel's Dart. It's about the same areas but different people, and this one takes place several years beforehand, and it was interesting, but again, it's not going to be something I pick up again. I've read it once, maybe twice. I couldn't tell you what it's about too much, to be honest. We are following our main character who does have some inherent magic abilities. She's from Alba, which is basically England in this alternative history, and then she crosses over to France. Again, different name because alternative history, but that's basically where all the lands are. And she gets caught up in this society of people that are trying to use magic to summon these different things. Again, I might have this slightly wrong because it's been a long time since I've read this. Like I said, it was interesting, it was okay, but yeah, I just think out of all the books that I want to read, knowing that I'm not going to pick these back up again, I don't see the point of keeping these. I do like Jacqueline Kerry's writing. I do want to try some of her other books, but these three of being a prequel to Cushel's Dart, I preferred Cushel's Dart. Which, speaking of Cushel's Dart, Jacqueline Kerry also did another trilogy that's taken place after the Cushel's Dart trilogy, and that is Cushel's Scion. Again, I don't know which order these ones go in. This one is dealing with a character that you meet in the third and final book of the Cushel's Dart trilogy, and again, it's interesting, but it has a completely different vibe to Cushel's Dart. There's nowhere near as many politics involved. There isn't a war story. There is sort of, but not on the scale that it was in Cushel's Dart, and it's more of a revenge story, and I don't know. It was okay. Again, it was an enjoyable read, but it's not one I would pick up. I've had these for years, read them the once, not picked them back up again, so I think considering I've had them on my shelves for so long and I haven't read them, I may as well just unhaul them and make space. So that's it. That's all the books that I am unhauling. Now, I know my descriptions of the books were very brief unless I'd actually read them. As you saw, a few of the books I haven't even read, but I know I'm never going to, or they're books that I read but such a long time ago I don't remember much about them, but I know I'm never going to pick them back up again, so there's no point keeping hold of them. Now, all of these books will be going to a charity shop when charity shops reopen. I never just throw them away because someone else can always find enjoyment out of a book that I haven't enjoyed. But that's it. Do you unhaul regularly? Is this something that you've ever done? I honestly have unhauled several times because I've moved around a lot, and each time I've moved around I have dreaded the thought of packing up all my books. So I tend to keep all the ones I've really enjoyed and then unhaul all the rest. Or in one case, when me and my sister moved in together, we had a lot of doubles of the same books. So we got rid of all the doubles, and then when we left, split the books between the two of us. So I ended up with significantly less books and then had to rebuy them all. That was not the smartest move, but I can hand on heart say I'm never going to rebuy any of these books. I'm never going to reread or read any of these books. So I am more than happy for these to go to a charity shop. And to be honest, it feels nice decluttering and getting rid of some things that you know you're not going to enjoy anymore and making space for new ones that you will enjoy or will hopefully enjoy. So yes. Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling, but as usual, if you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe. All my social media links to my Instagram and Goodreads will be linked below, and I will catch you in the next video.